Hello everyone, this is Data from JGX, and in today's video we're going to analyze the 2021 Annual Reward Program Mechs, the UrbanMech, the Viper, and the Atlas. Starting with the UrbanMech, first thing that you notice is that the mounts are pretty high. As for the quirks, unfortunately you cannot distinguish the quirks from the Mech Lab once you have leveled it up, and you cannot read them individually in the store because it is not in the store yet. So you have to go on the patch notes like this. And these are the quirks of the UrbanMech. So standard UrbanMech survival quirks, standard UrbanMech heat dissipation, questionable overheat damage applied to many light mechs. The thing is that basically when it rolls, an amount of internal damage to do in case of overheat. It looks like that it is not strictly dependent on how much you overheated. So even if you overheat, say, 5%, you're like 105%, it may roll an actually high amount of internal damage, and in some cases, this damage can be enough to one-shot a light mech with overheat. That's why this was the logic behind applying overheat damage to light mechs, even though I always thought that it should have been applied to all the mechs across the board. ECM target sensor range reduction. Basically, this works in a similar way to the ECM nodes in the skill tree. It works like similar to these nodes here. So even with just one node applied in the skill tree, you should be way more than okay. PPC family velocity. Again, in the cauldron, we are applying basically PPC family velocity to every Innisphere mech that has PPCs, and also to some clan mechs. From my point of view, this should have been an indicator that the base velocity on PPCs is too low. Like if you apply PPC velocity to every PPC mech, you should handle the base value of the velocity, not apply quirks every time you create a new mech. PPC family heat, I think this quirk is way too strong here. The mech is basically heat neutral. It doesn't need all this sort of DPS. It would have been fine even with a 5% quirk, especially because the light PPCs have been buffed to the sky and beyond. As for the mech, the build is 3 light PPCs for one simple reason. It has jump jets, ECM, and high mounts. So what you want to do to min-max its performance is to just put the light PPCs to use it as a Pop-Tart. The cockpit is high, the weapons are high, it has ECM, and it has also jump jets. Why 3 light PPCs and not 4? Because you wouldn't have the jump jets to utilize it, or 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 the heatsinks. You can't handle all of these PPCs with just 10 double heatsinks, even with the quirk. And you would have to shoot them 2 and 2. So more exposure time, and less sustained DPS. Say if the weapons you're utilizing are of the same type and the damage per heat is the same, your sustained damage without overheating depends on how many heat sinks you have. So adding more identical weapons while removing the heat sinks, it nerfs your mech. Unless you gain some sort of special uber burst capabilities, you're nerfing your mech because you have less heat sinks. On the battle, once you level it up, I like zoom, ECM. The mech is cold, so you don't need full operations. The mech, it's a common PPC mech, so you don't need laser duration. You may actually need velocity quirks. Actually, that's what I'm going to do. You always need velocity on projectile weapons. Strike, cool shot, we don't need it. I'll just chalk one random here on cooldown. On light mechs and medium mechs, the survival tree, is the most important thing you can do. So you have to put a lot of survival tree for one simple reason: it's overpowered, because the amount of bonus it gives to light mechs is a lot more than the bonus it gives to assault. So for example, a skeleton density node gives 3.9% to this mech. On a mech like this, instead of giving 3.9, it only gives 2.5. So you get more in percentage, more survival out of on a light mech than you do on an assault. This is also pretty garbage. I'm against this kind of stuff, but whatever. It's there, so just abuse it. It's just saying it's completely stupid to take a light mech and not put a survival tree like this at least. Once you go on the battlefield, basically you have ECM, so you can go pretty much wherever you want. DPS is there. Heat is not a problem at all. And you can pretty much find an object behind some sort of object, and you start doing this sort of job. If the enemy is like in the front, like there, don't do this kind of stupid shit like this, jumping vertically, because you're more exposed. And the movement is more predictable. Usually what you want to do, if the enemy is right there, you need to jump like this, sideways. So that's it for the UrbanMech. As for the second one, the Viper received some nice survival boosts, and this specific Viper has generic excel decel rate. I think it doesn't even need them, because the base agility of the mech is above the sky, like it's crazy for a medium mech. I don't think that it's fine to have this sort of agility on a mech, especially because some weapons now aren't even fast enough to hit them. So the agility, first, I've almost forgot. As for the UrbanMech, the agility is pretty much okay. The torso can rotate 360 degrees. It's one of maybe the only mech that does this. In MechWarrior 4, also the Mad Dog did this, but not in this game. Yeah, the agility is pretty okay. Nothing special. As for the Viper, the agility is insane. Like this. Basically, this is almost Locust level of agility. As for the quirks, I don't know why this mech received MG ammo capacity. The best you can do here is to put heavy machine guns and micro pulses. You could put regular machine guns and small pulses, but the overall DPS would be less. You can put regular machine guns and heavy mediums, but again, the point of this mech is doing DPS. This is the maximum possible DPS build that you can do. You could actually put small pulses removing ammo and some armor, but then you run out of ammo. As for the skills, again, Giga buff survival. You don't need operation because the max is hit neutral. Double strike. And you don't even need full cooldown nodes because machine guns don't take advantage of cooldown nodes. So you don't need cooldown nodes because you're mainly machine gun based. Of course, you want magazine capacity, some range. As for how you're meant to use the mech, I think this mech is extremely powerful. The main problem that people have with these mechs is that they can't hold their dick into their pants. So they start running all over the place as soon as the match starts. Oh, let's go! I'll push one versus the entire enemy team. They get wrecked, and then they complain that their poor light mech doesn't perform enough because I wasn't able to defeat 10 mechs all by myself. So it's just fucking stupid. You need to wait a bit.
Target
Like the best way to use this mech is to wait a couple of minutes before doing anything. And then when the brawl starts, you go at the back of the enemy team and you engage the enemies from behind. In a 1v1, there is no way this mech can lose to whatever sort of mech in the game, like an assault with mid-range, maybe just some dedicated brawling assault could beat this. But let's say if you find a laser vomit, you can even engage him frontally and keep jumping while shooting like this and glitching in and out, and there is no way you can lose because the DPS without overheating of this mech is just insane. So you're basically meant to get even behind someone or even in the front as long as you keep glitching or shooting, like I'm using the junctions like this. It should be fine. You can just rotate around, abusing the turn rate buffs that have been given to these sort of mechs. As for the Atlas, it got standard Atlas armor, standard heat for Innisphere 100 tonners, Atlas crit chance receiving to make it tankier. It has jump jets with some jump jet quirks, weapon velocity. As for the hard points, if you're trying to make a brawler out of it, there are better Atlases to do so. Since it has 2 energy and 2 ballistics all together, all packed together, so from a geometry point of view, they're perfect. When you shoot PPCs and ghosts, you want them to start all from one place. Otherwise, they will desync left and right when trying to lead the shot on faster mechs. So, for example, despite what Pepegas used to say, this mech is not even close to be OP simply because the Gosses are one in Congo and the other in China. So when you try to lead the shot on a faster mech, they'll go one on the right and one on the left. Instead, on a mech like this, the weapons are packed all in one place. So even when you lead the shot, they will still hit always all on the same component. You have velocity and heat. That is what you need on these kind of weapons because they're not starving on range at all. The engine is pretty fast and the heat dissipation ammo is good. It has ECM. So you are not dependent from other mechs like a Direwolf. You have the speed to go around on the battlefield by yourself, and most importantly, you have turbo agility on this mech. Like some mechs got basically nuked with the agility pass because they didn't get basically anything. Like the Annihilator, for example, acceleration 9.6, deceleration 14. Like mechs who needed the most agility didn't get basically anything. Other mechs like this one instead got plenty of agility. They actually have the agility an assault mech should have. So they have enough excel decel to peak. They have enough turn rate to be able to put some sort of fight versus a short range mech that comes to kill them. And they have a good torso turn rate to torso twist. For comparison, a direwolf or an annihilator, like the annihilator is 9.6, 14. This one is 20 and 21. The turn rate is only 35, and this is 55. Torso turn rate 58 versus 108. Basically, some assaults just got left behind because some Pepegas were crying that they were OP even if they are not, and some other mechs instead got what they deserved. This is one of the mechs, of the assault mechs, that got buffed properly. I think that even in a solo quick play scenario, this is one of the strongest mechs in the game right now. Jump jet, I don't even know if you need it. Maybe you could use it to reposition on some maps, but in order to pop tart with this, you would need at least 3 jump jets, and you rise very slow, like with these jump jets, and 2 tons for all. I still think that 2 tons for class 1 jump jets it's too much. I just don't put class 1 jump jet on any mech because I consider them just a waste of tonnage. When you go on the battlefield, you are supposed to use the mech like this. You should find some sort of cover and right side peek from it. So the agility is nice. You can actually, if you feel actually, you can turn and defend yourself in case something comes close. You have the agility to do what you need to do, barely. At least you have it. And the heat goes off pretty quick. The mech is fast, so it's a pretty independent mech, like the Direwolf, for example, or the Madcat Mark II, which are not independent because they don't have agility. At least the Madcat is fast, but the Dire is not. As for the skill tree, pretty much a generic skill tree, nothing special. Like the Viper was quite particular because of the MGs. They don't use the cooldown nodes because they have a rate of fire off. Somehow is handled in a different way from the game. As for the skill tree, it's pretty generic. 1 ECM node because I'm not gonna brawl with it. Velocity node, you don't need all the cooldowns, some armor, and full operations. Most of my mechs are on full operations because just more farm, double layer strike, and that's pretty much it. I hope this helped you guys, and see you next time.